A long, long time ago, the world was a very different place. When the earth was young, it was filled with beautiful forests, sparkling rivers, and golden fields. But as time went by, the people living in the world began to change. They forgot how to be kind. They forgot how to help one another. Instead of sharing, they stole. Instead of loving, they fought. The world became a very loud and scary place. Everywhere you looked, people were being mean. They didn't care about the trees, the animals, or each other. They only cared about themselves. The Creator looked down at the world he had made. He saw the fighting and the sadness. It broke his heart. It was like seeing a beautiful painting covered in mud. He knew that the world couldn't stay this way. It needed to be washed. It needed a fresh, clean start. But in the middle of all that noise and anger, there was one man who was quiet. His name was Noah. Noah was not a king. He was not a giant. He was just a good man. While everyone else was shouting and fighting, Noah walked quietly. He listened to the wind. He listened to his heart. And most importantly, he listened to God. One day the sky seemed to go still, and a voice spoke to Noah's heart. God told Noah, "A great storm is coming. The rain will be so big that it will cover the whole earth. The world must be washed clean so life can start over." God gave Noah a giant job. He told him, "Build a huge boat, build an ark." Now you have to imagine how strange this was. Noah didn't live near the ocean. He lived in a place where the ground was dry and dusty. There were no big lakes. There were no docks. But Noah didn't ask why. He didn't say no. He just picked up his axe and went to work. Noah called his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Together they went into the forest. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The sound of their axes echoed through the trees. They cut down huge trees made of gopher wood. They carried the heavy logs back to their home. Day after day, year after year, the ark grew. It was massive. It was longer than 3 football fields and taller than a 3-story house. Noah used black pitch, a kind of sticky tar, to seal every crack so the water couldn't get in. As the ark got bigger, the neighbors started to notice. They gathered around the giant wooden box and laughed. "Hey, Noah," they shouted. "Why are you building a boat in the middle of the dirt? Are you waiting for the sand to turn into water?" They pointed and mocked him. They called him Crazy Noah. They thought he was wasting his life. But Noah didn't get angry. Every time he took a break from his hammer, he would talk to them. "Please," Noah would say.
"Please. The world has become too mean. A storm is coming to wash it all away. Change your hearts. Come and help me build. There is room for everyone. Please join us."
But the people just laughed harder. They went back to their dancing and their fighting. They thought the sun would always shine. They couldn't imagine a world different from the one they knew. For decades, Noah kept working. Every nail he drove into the wood was a message of faith. He was building a bridge to the future, even if no one else could see the water yet. Finally, the ark was finished. It sat like a giant mountain of wood in the middle of the valley. Then the air began to feel heavy. The birds stopped singing, and a strange shadow fell over the land. Then from the corners of the earth, the animals began to arrive. This was a miracle that everyone saw, but few understood. From the high mountains came the snow leopards. From the deep jungles came the tigers. From the hot deserts came the camels. They didn't need to be tied with ropes. They didn't need to be hunted. A quiet power was leading them. 2 by 2, they walked up the big wooden ramp. The tall giraffes stretched their necks to get through the door. The heavy elephants made the wood groan under their feet. The tiny ants marched in a long line. The colorful parrots flew in, landing on the high beams. Inside, the ark became a giant home. There were stalls for the cows, nests for the birds, and bags of grain for everyone to eat. Finally, Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives stepped inside. Then something happened that no human could do. The massive, heavy door, the only way in or out, began to move. It swung shut with a loud thud. God had sealed the door. The time for talking was over. For 7 days, nothing happened. The sun stayed in the sky. The people outside probably laughed one last time, throwing stones at the closed door. But on the 7th day, the world broke. It didn't start with a small cloud. It started with an explosion. The Bible says the fountains of the great deep broke open. It was as if the earth itself cracked, and oceans of water hidden underground shot up into the sky. At the same time, the clouds ripped apart. The rain didn't fall in drops. It fell in sheets. In minutes, the dusty ground became a swamp. In hours, the swamp became a lake. The people who had laughed were now running. They climbed onto their roofs, then they ran for the hills, then they climbed the highest mountains. But the water didn't stop. It rose higher and higher. Inside the ark, Noah's family felt a sudden lift. The giant boat groaned and tilted, then leveled out. For the first time, the ark was doing what it was built to do. It was floating. Outside, the old world was disappearing under the waves. All the fighting, all the mean words, all the towers people built to show off. It was all washed away. The only thing left was the ark, a small wooden spark of life in a world of dark water. For 40 days, the rain never stopped. The wind howled against the wooden walls. Inside, it was a busy place. Noah's family worked from sunrise to sunset. They had thousands of animals to feed. They had to keep the floors clean and make sure everyone was safe. Can you imagine the sounds? The lions roaring in the dark, the sheep bleating, the sound of the water constantly hitting the side of the boat. It must have been scary, but Noah wasn't afraid. He knew they were being looked after. After 40 days, the rain finally stopped. The sun came out, but when Noah looked out the small window at the top, he didn't see any trees. He didn't see any land. He saw a blue world that touched a blue sky. The mountains were gone. The earth was resting under a giant blanket of water. Many months passed. The ark floated quietly. Eventually, the boat came to a rest. It had bumped into the top of a mountain called Ararat. Noah knew the water was going down, but he had to be sure. He opened the window and let out a black bird called a raven. The raven flew back and forth, but it found nowhere to land, so it stayed by the boat. A week later, Noah sent out a beautiful white dove. The dove flew away, but she came back quickly because there was still water everywhere. Noah waited 7 more days. He sent the dove out again. This time when she returned in the evening, she had something in her beak. It was a tiny, fresh green olive leaf. Noah held the leaf in his hand and showed it to his family. They all cheered. The olive leaf meant that trees were growing again. It meant that life was coming back to the soil. The storm was truly over. Finally, the ground was dry. God told Noah, "It is time. Open the door." When the door opened, the smell of fresh earth and flowers rushed in. It was the best smell Noah had ever known. The animals couldn't wait. They ran, hopped, and flew out of the ark. The horses galloped into the valleys. The birds filled the air with songs. The world was quiet, clean, and beautiful. Noah and his family stepped onto the grass. They were the only people on earth, but they weren't lonely. They felt lucky to be alive. Noah built a small altar to say thank you to God for keeping them safe through the giant storm. As Noah looked up at the sky, something incredible happened. A giant arc of light appeared in the clouds. It was the first rainbow the world had ever seen. It was made of every color you can imagine. Vibrant red, warm orange, bright yellow, soft green, deep blue, and royal purple. God spoke to Noah and said, "Look at this rainbow. This is my promise to you and every living creature. I will never send a flood to cover the whole earth again. Whenever it rains and you see the rainbow, remember that I am watching over the world." Noah looked at the rainbow and then at the new world around him. He realized that even though the storm was big, the promise was bigger. Noah's story is more than just a story about a boat and some animals. It is a story about being brave when you are the only one doing the right thing. It teaches us that even when everyone else is being mean or selfish, we can choose to be kind. It teaches us that if we listen to the good voice in our hearts and work hard, we can get through any storm. So the next time you see a rainbow in the sky after a rain, think of Noah. Remember that after every storm, the sun comes out and the world gets a chance to start over, better and brighter than before.